podcast. My name's Naz. So it's official. Michael Chandler, one of the best fighters at Bellator, is moving to the UFC. He's slated to be one of the alternates for the highly anticipated fight between Justin Gaethje and Khabib Nurmagomedov. The fight's scheduled to be on October 24th, and it's going to be on Fight Island. Michael Chandler is going to have to fly all the way to Abu Dhabi and wait to figure out if he's going to fight. The only way that he has the opportunity to fight is if something happens, like an injury to either one of those fighters that I just mentioned. So there's a big what if when it comes to Michael Chandler going to Fight Island. We've seen it in the past on how much it affects fighters, that long flight. We've seen it affect a lot of fighters in negative ways. Some of the past fights that we've seen, it just doesn't look like the same fighter. And imagine if something does happen to either Khabib or Justin. You put that long travel on top of the fact that you don't know if you're going to fight. You don't know if you're going to have to step into that octagon for the world championship. Either fighting one of the most dangerous men in the world in Justin Gaethje, and equally as dangerous in Khabib, but him being that monster that's been going on his run. Considered one of the best of all time. And this is going to be a big challenge for Michael Chandler. But here's the flip side to it. Like numerous people are saying, Michael Chandler, by this decision from the UFC, has become the number one contender after this fight. Now, there's other factors that go into it, like if the fight is very highly contested, we might get a rematch between Justin Gaethje and Khabib. But if the fight is in a one-way fashion, if someone wins in a dominant way, then guess who's fighting next for that belt? I think it's going to be Michael Chandler. The UFC has laid this out perfectly. Michael Chandler says that I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. He's here to be a contender. He doesn't have time to take smaller fights and move up the ladder. He needs to fight for the belt now. He needs to show everybody that just because he was fighting in another organization, he's still UFC championship caliber. So why would the UFC want Michael Chandler to come in and fight for the belt? I think there's a couple reasons for this. Michael Chandler, I've loved his personality. I love the heart and determination that he comes in with. He's talked about how he's Mike Tyson-esque in some points of his career. And you kind of see it in his fighting style. You see it in his training videos. I think that's one of the reasons why the UFC would like to have him fight for the championship. But I think another reason is the fact that the UFC wants to show that, first of all, they're not giving out easy fights to anybody. You're going to be put into the Shark Tank when you come to the UFC. That's always been their motto. No easy fights. And they want to show everybody that if Michael Chandler wins, or if he loses, he's still going to have a crazy fight. Think about it. He's going to be going after Khabib Nurmagomedov, which is a good fight for him because of his wrestling accolades. And is he going to be able to nullify Khabib's wrestling? Nobody has, and nobody's shown that they could. The only round that we've seen being highly contested with Khabib was in the Conor McGregor fight, and that was on the feet. And if Justin Gaethje wins, then Michael Chandler is going to have to go up against that monster as well. A guy that doesn't care about getting hit. He has the heart and determination. And in this part of his career, we've seen that knockout power from him. Just the boxing ability that he's shown with those awesome leg kicks, those chopping leg kicks. It looks like at the start of every combination he throws, it starts off with one of those chopping leg kicks. You know, I've been in the arena while that leg kick went off, and it sounds like someone's chopping a tree down with an axe. It's crazy. The way that it echoes and reverberates around the arena. Crazy. Especially if you think about this guy's wrestling background. People beat on this like crazy. Why doesn't he use his wrestling? All this kind of stuff. I'm not going to harp too much on it. It's just incredible whenever we talk about this guy that he's a world-class wrestler, or, you know, you could say wrestling is his background. You barely see him use it. He uses it in a way that defends from takedowns. He wants to stay on the feet with you. They don't call him the highlight reel for nothing. What a perfect nickname for a guy. So back to Michael Chandler. 2 tough fights with both of those fighters, if he does get to fight one of them. But even if he doesn't, well, now we've determined that he's the number 1 contender. You know, originally my thought was that between the Tony Ferguson and the Poirier fight would be the number 1 contender. Obviously, it kind of makes sense, right? Because it's the interim belt holder in Justin Gaethje is going to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. So we're going to figure out who's going to win that fight. So after the Tony and Poirier fight got scrapped, it's interesting the direction the UFC went in. You know, I just kind of laid out some of the reasons why I think the UFC wants to move in this direction. But it's kind of hard to be in Tony and Poirier's position. Each of those fighters being class acts and wanting to fight each other. Tony's like, pay the man. And Poirier just wants his money and fight Tony Ferguson. They've both talked about the fact that they don't want to fight anybody else. They just want to fight each other. And another point that I wanted to make was a bunch of Bellator fighters have come out and kind of, funny enough, said that, hey, I've beaten this guy. Does that make me UFC championship level? I think the answer for that is that, yes, Michael Chandler has had his challenges in the past. He's lost fights. But he's still dangerous. He's still capable of turning it on at any point. You can see the ability that he possesses. And if he can combine all that, have a good training camp, not get injured, well, Michael Chandler is one of the best of all time. It's just the abilities that he shows. You got to put him up there. So even if he doesn't fight Khabib or Justin on October 24th, that still puts him up there. So I think this is overall great news for Michael Chandler. This is overall great news for the UFC roster. It just builds and builds and builds. Even if somehow, because there's a lot of ways that this could get jumbled up. This is a little while from now. It's in October 24th. So there's some things that could pop up. Even if Michael Chandler doesn't fight Khabib or Justin, man, it's going to be so much fun to see him fight anybody in the division. Could you imagine a Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson fight? Those two crazy guys will just go at it against each other. That fight will be incredible. And then equally the same, there's a bunch of other fighters like Hooker. Could you imagine a Hooker and Chandler fight? Nuts. Poirier, Michael Chandler fight? Poirier always comes and brings it. There's a bunch of different matchups that I could see for Michael Chandler. I think this is a great move for the UFC because you're bringing someone in that can always bring it and is always willing to take it. Look at this. There's a bunch of different fighters that would have just said flat out, no, I'm not taking the chance. I need a full training camp to fight one of these guys. Because even though Michael Chandler is getting a good amount of time for the October 24th card, you got to think about the fact that this guy is gonna have to train for two fighters. Even though they both have wrestling backgrounds, they're two totally different fighting styles. Justin Gaethje, like I said, comes out guns blazing, on the feet, chopping leg kicks, punches that can knock you out in the lightweight division. He's got that knockout power for his size. Khabib Nurmagomedov going to put you against the cage, going to take you down. Instead of going for those submission positions, he's going to go for the positions that are just going to be able to hit you. He's going to be able to hit you in those positions. He's always blanketing you with that amazing wrestling that he showcases. You know, I'm looking at the list of fighters in the lightweight division. Man, this division is so stacked that I just forget about some of the fighters that are in here. By looking at it, you know, Chandler fight against Dustin, like I said, Tony would be cool. Conor McGregor fight, it would be great. Man, you can go through this division 1 to 15. Be a crazy fight for Michael Chandler. A lot of options. It's great to see a fighter of this caliber coming into the UFC who's going to showcase himself. He's going to put on some great fights. He's going to make it exciting in the division. Like I said, jam-packed division. All the fights are box office. Great fights. And Michael Chandler's a great addition to this. So thank you for listening to this podcast. Great talking about this. I love talking about Michael Chandler. He's one of my favorites. Showcases it, brings it, like I said. Thank you for listening to this. I appreciate it. If you guys could like, subscribe, do all that stuff on the different platforms, that would be greatly appreciated. And this has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.